when she was a little girl, she got the whole plate of Lord Chaitanya's remnants. And she was considered to be so blessed getting the remnants of Lord Chaitanya. So she got the full mercy of Lord Gauranga, getting his remnants when she was a little girl. And she was, it was kind of like one of those ecstatic moments because she was just 4 years old and she just became overwhelmed with Gauranga Prem after receiving the remnants of the food or prashadam of Lord Gauranga. So then when she was pregnant, her husband died. So she was pregnant, she was carrying little Vrindavan Das in her womb, but her husband died, so she became a widow at a very young age. And she was, it's kind of squeaking, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's better, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So, so she was given shelter in the house of Shivas Thakur, who was on the far right. Shivas Thakur. She was the niece of Shivas Thakur. Still squeaking, yeah?
Yeah.
A bit. Turn the speaker away from the mic. Okay.
Yeah, better.
So it's considered that it's still squeaking.
Yeah. There's not a lot of adjustments on this, unfortunately.
What if I push this? Is that
Maybe
better?
that, and maybe let's move the speaker.
Yeah,
Maybe the speaker back?
the other way.
Would you hit
I think maybe.
how you put it on eco? What'd you do?
This is a big production.
Yeah.
Maybe let's try that.
So that nobody can see the punch. Can you still see the
Did
punch?
you hit
Yes,
this
you
one?
can still see Shivas Thakur. Anyway, she was given this, and then later she was given shelter in the home of Shivas Thakur's wife was named Malini, Devi, and she came from the family of Vasudev Dutt in another place, another village. So then Narayani Devi went there, stayed there, did humble service there in the home of those great devotees, and Vrindavan Das Thakur was raised there in the shelter of those great devotees, Vasudev Dutt, dearmost devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So he was born 4 years after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. Can you still hear? Is this mic on?
Or
Maybe
is
we'll
this
just
one
turn
out?
It
off
is
the
still
fan.
on, yeah.
I might just turn off this fan also and just
It's this one over.
the window open there too.
So he was about 20 years old when Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Chaitanya disappeared from this world, and he was initiated as a direct disciple of Nityananda Prabhu. And he's called the dearmost devotee or disciple of Nityananda Prabhu. He wrote many, many ecstatic verses about Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and most of all, he wrote the Chaitanya Bhagavat. So he's called the Veda Vyas of the Chaitanya Leela. So just as Vyasadeva wrote Srimad Bhagavatam, he's considered the Vyasadeva who wrote the early pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So the later pastimes of Lord Chaitanya were written by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. And Krishna Das Kaviraj, these saints are so humble, you know. They're not like we are, like all competing, you know. I did it first, I did it better. No, they're all, you know, competing in humility. So, Krishna Das Kaviraj, it glorifies him so beautifully. Here's what he says. The pastimes of Krishna have been described in Srimad Bhagavatam by Veda Vyas. Vrindavan Das is the Veda Vyas of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya. He has composed Chaitanya Mangal, which later became known as Chaitanya Bhagavat, because there was another book called Chaitanya Mangal, which destroys any inauspiciousness for those who hear it, so that we can understand the glories of Chaitanya Nitai, the essence of the conclusions regarding devotional service, as expanded in Srimad Bhagavatam, and the limits of the conclusions regarding Krishna Bhakti. He has composed this great literature to uplift mankind. To compose such a work is not conceivable for a human being. Therefore, we can understand that Sri Chaitanya himself is speaking through him. I offer my obeisances tens of millions of times at the lotus feet of that person who has given us such a scripture which can deliver the whole world. So this is a quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita where Krishna Das Kaviraj glorifies Vrindavan Das Thakur. So I wanted to share this beautiful verse, which is really, you can see the mood is so ecstatic. I mean, he wrote the whole Chaitanya Bhagavat and so many verses, so many astakams. But here's I feel like this is super ecstatic, so see what you think of this. I won't read the Sanskrit or the Bengali, but you can just kind of try to read it slowly because it's so beautiful. It sounds kind of like the prayer to Lord Nrsingadev, where we hear Lord Nrsingadev is within and without, he's here and he's there, everywhere. So here's what he says about his beloved guru, but also deity, Lord Nityananda, who is, by the way, in case you don't know. So in the middle is Lord Gauranga. The second one on our left, next to Lord Chaitanya in the middle is Lord Nityananda. Then Sri Advaita is on our far left, Sri Gadadhar, who sometimes is called Radha Gadadhar because he's the internal energy of Lord Chaitanya, is on Lord Chaitanya's right, and then Srivas Thakur on the far right. Okay, so see what you think of this verse, which I love. He says, Nitai is within and without. He is everywhere within this world. He is the lover, and he is the sweetheart. Everyone says it. Nitai is my regulative principles, my object of worship, and the light of my eyes. Nitai is in all 10 directions. In fact, he fills all the 3 worlds. Nitai is Ananga Manjari, eternally serving Srimati Radharani. He is non-different from Baladev, whose beautiful face resembles millions of moons and is surrounded by Sakis and Sakas. The sister of Radharani, Ananga Manjari, is very dear to Sri Shama, that's Radharani, and she is the life and soul of all the Sakis. She decorates the arena of the temple named Mandira. Nitai sustains the Yogapeeth, which is the birthplace of Krishna or Lord Chaitanya, and becomes a throne for the Lord to rest on. Nitai is also the dress and the ornaments. He enjoys pastimes with the Sakis. What more can I say? Nitai is the eyes, mouth, and limbs of everyone. Nitai, 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 Nitai. I see only Nitai dancing. Ecstatic, right? Raising my hands and chanting, Nitai, I will go to Raja. I, Vrindavan Das, only request Nitai to kindly never leave me. Really beautiful, huh? Do you like it? It's really nice. And then his very first verse of Chaitanya Bhagavat is so beautiful, so I just want to share this. And this one I will say in the Sanskrit. Maybe you know this verse, you can also join in. Ajanulambita bhujo kanakavadhato sankirtanai kapitaro kamalaya daksho vishwambaro dvijavaro yugadharma palo vande jagat priyakaro karunavataro. So this is a beautiful prayer to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, whose long arms extend to their knees. They have splendid golden complexions, and they inaugurated the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Their eyes resemble the petals of lotus flowers. They are the maintainers of all the worlds, the best of the Brahmins, the protectors of the religious principles for this age. They bring happiness to the people of the world and are the most merciful of all incarnations. Nice, huh? So all glories to Vrindavan Das Thakur. We can eat his remnants by hearing Chaitanya Bhagavat and hearing about him. So here we are in this garden. It looks like we're in the inner city of Philadelphia. It's actually a garden. But I was thinking about awakening to a relationship with Krishna. So just like in a garden, any of you have a garden? You have a garden? Where do you live?
Birdsboro?
So that's out in the suburbs of Philadelphia?
It's like about an hour and 15 minutes away from here.
Wow, so you have a real garden out there. Okay, so anybody else have a garden? I mean, Haryashva Prabhu has a garden here, Bhakti Garden.
What about?
You have a garden.
Well, we used to have the Bhakti Garden started with a big deck on the top. But the real thing about the Bhakti Garden, it's always a garden because it's a garden where we're growing creepers
That's
of
right.
devotion.
Exactly.
And this is the watering process.
Exactly. So Tiff, you said you have a garden. Good. Okay, so you guys who have actual gardens, what if you just go away to California for a week or two? Or maybe you just go to New York.
You better pray for rain.
Yeah, and you come back, what does your garden look like?
A devastation.
It's a mess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what's the point? The point here is that bhakti is also a daily cultivation. And did you ever hear sometimes they say that 90% of success is just showing up? You know? So when you have a garden, you really know what that means, just showing up, you know. You can't just go off to California, New York, you know, go over to an eco village with nobody to take care of the garden for 2 months, you know, whatever. Yeah. So because what the devastation, as you said, that will be there when you get back. There will be predators. There will be a desert. Everything will be dead. Or, you know, no water. Maybe there was a flood. You just don't even know. So bhakti. We should really think of bhakti as a daily cultivation, like a garden, showing up, and that Krishna will carry us if we show up, you know. Sometimes bhakti is defined as a love, and I love this, it's very reciprocal. Bhakti is defined as a loving responsiveness. So it's like a reciprocation, because it's always, you know, we talk about radical personalism. It's a relationship. It's a reciprocal relationship between our call and Krishna's response and our hearing Krishna's response. There's this funny story about Mother Teresa that some cocky reporter was interviewing her, and he didn't really want to hear from her, he just wanted some little sound bites. And so he said, "So you pray a lot. Well, what does God say when you pray?" And she said, no, he was saying, what do you say to God when you pray? And so she said, "Mostly I just listen." And then he said, "Well, what does God say?" And she said, "Mostly he listens too." And then she was like 4'11", like, you know, really feisty, and she would just take on heads of state, and you know, I really loved her. Anyway, so she said, "Yeah, mostly he just listens too." And then she said, "And if you can't understand that, I can't explain it to you." So it's a beautiful responsiveness, right? It's a reciprocal of calling out and trying to hear a response and calling out, and a loving responsiveness. Sometimes bhakti is called meditation or upasana that's been saturated with priti or love. That's also a very beautiful definition. So I feel like these verses that we're reading from Vrindavan Das Thakur, you just get a sense that he's relishing something very living and vibrant, a relationship with his worshipable deity, Master, Lord Nityananda. And his bhakti is not dead. or stagnant. Do you ever feel like you're just sleepwalking through your life? You know, you feel like, you know, like you're a robot or a zombie. Hi, Bull. Welcome. We needed a few kids here. It's getting very dry without you, so please come in and enliven us. So, yeah, you know, sometimes I feel like that, you know, just kind of sleepwalking like a robot or a zombie. You know, oh gosh, I just remember this other story. I do what I'm supposed to do, but sometimes I feel like my heart is not really there. So I just remember this other story. This is a really beautiful story from the Desert Fathers, that one of the younger men, so they were monastics living out in the desert, you know, like around the 1st century after Christ. They were just out in the desert. And so this one younger man, one of the students, asked his mentor, he said, you know, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm following all the rules, but is there anything more I could be doing? And his master said this really amazing thing. He just held out his hands like Lord Chaitanya. And he said, yes, if you desire it, you can become holy fire. And I take that as like WHO or HOLY. So he puts out his arms, and then as the story goes, fire just started shooting out of his hands. So he said, yeah, if you desire it, you can become holy fire. So I think that's kind of what we're here for, right? You know? Not just to be like a robot, like a zombie, just going through the motions, whatever we're doing. You know, if it's our gardening in our garden, or if it's doing an RT or doing whatever we do, you know. Yeah, a living ecstatic love is like molten lava. Like if you can just visualize molten lava coming, like rolling down the side of a volcano, or pouring, shooting out, shooting firecrackers of flames out of the top. It covers and it overwhelms everything it touches, right? But if we're asleep to that kind of love, then our hearts can become just like cold, calcified, hard stone when we're not doing it with any mood of love, when it remains external and we're not pouring our heart into it. So I think this is the problem with our world, the whole world, the ISKCON world, but also the outside world, that people have become, that people's hearts have become cold and hard and disenchanted. You know, the whole world has become disenchanted. But waking up to a loving bhakti relationship with Krishna is an opportunity, it's an invitation that our hearts can become re-enchanted by Krishna. But Krishna, you know, he's a very subtle lover. He's not one of those beat you over the head types of a guy, you know. He's, you know, actually that reminded me of another story. I'll tell you that story. So, yeah, so here's a nice story. So, in the early days, when there was only one temple in New York City, it had just started, 26th Avenue, and there was going to be a first initiation on a Thursday night, and some of the first devotees were invited to attend and get initiated. And someone named Stephen Guarino, who later became Satsrupa Das Goswami. Is he your guru? No. Satsrupa? Yeah, no?
Oh no, a lot of my family is, but not.
Yeah, that's I thought.
I was named by him when I was born.
Oh, that's very nice. Kind of like Narayani, got the remnants of Lord Chaitanya. Anyway, so his name at this time was Stephen, and he was a very introverted person. He was a writer. He is a writer, and he was invited to attend that first initiation, but he didn't really feel qualified. Sometimes you hear that from devotees. Actually, you know, when you think about initiation, you never really become qualified. It's just a grace that falls down, you know. There's no question of actually becoming qualified. Anyway, he didn't feel qualified. But he had been doing some typing service for Prabhupada, and he was delivering it every week. Every Friday night he would bring his completed manuscripts that he had typed up to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would come to the door and he would take the manuscripts. So the night after this initiation, what he didn't show up for, he came to Prabhupada's apartment, and Prabhupada, very gratefully took the manuscript typing from him. And then Prabhupada just looked at him and he said, "If you love me, I'll love you." I love that story because it's not mechanical, it's not as though I'm just gonna, check the box, I'm gonna do the work, I'm gonna, first I was talking about showing up, so it's showing up, but it's showing up as a whole person, showing up with our heart, not just showing up like a robot, like a zombie with no heart. So I really love that Prabhupada said, "If you love me, I'll love you." So Krishna's, I'm thinking of that song by George Harrison, which, something in the way she moves me like no other lover. He wrote that for Krishna, but he changed it to she because he didn't want people to think he was gay. So he said instead of she, he said Frank Sinatra said that was the most beautiful love song ever written for Krishna. So yeah, something in the way Krishna moves you, like no other lover. So, but we have to give him a chance. We have to offer an entree, right? We have to open the heart, open the door, This funny thing Pope Francis said, the Christians say Jesus is knocking on the door, he's knocking on the door, come and let him in, But Pope Francis said, Jesus is knocking on the door, let me out of this church. Don't keep me barricaded in the walls of this church. Let me out to be with the world, my people. So that's nice too. So anyway, we have to answer the call. Waking up, reconnecting to a conscious, thanking Krishna, offering the small and large things, the moments of our lives back to Krishna. It takes us into another dimension when it's conscious. A living, awakened, dynamic relationship with Krishna. And bhakti begins with a sense of gratitude. We use the word yagya a lot. It's in Bhagavad Gita, but I don't think we think very often that yagya actually means to just give back in gratitude. It's not just a ritual. It means I've recognized that this is coming from the source, Krishna, God by any name, and I have to give back in gratitude. So bhakti begins with that sense of gratitude. Here's a nice quote from someone named Michael Beckwith. Have you heard of him before? He's very good. Anyone else? Michael Beckwith, a wonderful teacher. He says, gratitude places you in the energy field of plenitude. Perceiving life in a consciousness of gratitude is literally stepping into another dimension of living. Suddenly, the seeming ordinariness of your days take on a divine sparkle. It's like a shift of energy when we are doing something with gratitude. It's like all of a sudden you're seeing, in every tree you can see a burning bush. You can see angels everywhere. You can, see the divinity in people all around you in the space that you're in. Everything about Krishna is alive and supremely personal. His name, form, qualities, pastimes, his devotees. To wake up, so that's what I'm trying to talk about tonight, is to wake up to that relationship is meant to be upfront and personal. So maybe think for a second, how are the ways that I'm doing this mechanically in my day? Okay, I wake up. I have certain rituals. Brush my teeth. People have different kinds of rituals. We have life-giving rituals, but then we also have death rituals that, maybe are part of our lives too. So we have to learn to discriminate. What are the rituals that I have in my life that are waking me up, and what are the ones that are maybe just leading me down a dead end? So Krishna is always there. He's available in all these forms, his name, his form, his qualities, pastimes, and his devotees. Santak Sadaiva Hridayeshu Viloka Yanti. So Govinda or Shamasundar he's always there. He's available, and he's visible by the devotees whose eyes are tinged with the salve of love. Srila Prabhupada wrote something beautiful. He says, if the sun can penetrate within your room, cannot Krishna penetrate within your heart and room and every corner? He is so useless. He is everywhere. But you have to realize how he is everywhere. Just like fire is in wood, right? And some people who know the art are able to ignite fire from wood. Traditionally in the Vedic yajnas, by mantra, they would be able to ignite fire from wood. We had a funny situation when we just had our opening of the new temple in Potomac. You were there, weren't you?
The first opening.
You were there? Nice. So it went on for like a week and a half or something. First there were Yajnik Brahmins, and then there was this and that, and then there were VIPs who came and beautifully honored. You were there for them. That was really nice. You helped coordinate that. Thank you very much. But there was one funny thing that happened during that temple opening, that the Brahmins had this intention. They had this idea that we're going to ignite fire for this yajna by mantra. And it was kind of a little bit comical, because they were trying and they were chanting all the right mantras, and there's these guys are really educated, and there's like 15 of them there or something. They came from everywhere, and they're all like dressed to the teeth, they know how to dress and what to say, and they know 1,000 mantras, and so they're chanting all these mantras, and they couldn't get the fire to start from the mantra. And then one of the head Brahmins of the yajna, he said, "This is the age of chanting the holy name. Everybody chant Hare Krishna." And the whole room, everyone is going, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Everyone is like, all en masse. Everyone is chanting. And then they got the fire to start. It was so funny. It was kind of mystic. It was like, yes, did we forget? This is the age of, the holy name has appeared to deliver us. So that was really sweet. Yeah. So there's one scholar who said, the question is not whether God exists, but the question is whether he is accessible. Which is really nice, like, okay, maybe he exists, but he's just off somewhere, and he's not really real for me in my life. Chaitanya Charan, you like him, right? Mm-hmm. Chaitanya Charan said he has. Anyone listen to Chaitanya Charan? Yeah, do you? He's got like 1,000 YouTube videos. He's one. So he said he has this one uncle. He was trying to introduce to Krishna consciousness, and his uncle, obviously some kind of intellectual. His uncle was saying, I have no problem with my relationship with God. He doesn't talk to me, and I don't talk to him. I have no problem. We're fine. That's so. Some people like it that way, but he can become accessible if we desire it, right? The French philosopher.
Thanks to the computer.
Oh yeah. I always have these. So the French philosopher Voltaire said something also very wise. Trouble is you can't figure out how to open them. It takes like 5 minutes. Oh, here it is.
You got
Each
it?
one is different, So Voltaire said something really wise. That he said, life is bristling with thorns, and I know of no other remedy than to cultivate one's garden. So the thorns in the world are everywhere, right? And you can experience being pricked by the thorns every day, at home, in the office, walking down the street. Those thorns are everywhere, but what's the solution to cultivate the inner garden? So, and if you have an outer garden in your yard at home, it's just such a wonderful metaphor. You can learn so much just by putting your hands in the dirt. I really recommend it, or even having a little plant at home, but just the metaphor just goes on and on and on, you know. Yeah, like being vigilant, looking out for unwanted predators, mosquitoes, bugs, creatures that you're not you don't welcome into your garden. They're there for their own purposes, not the purpose of the harvest of this garden. Yeah, they just, sometimes these predators just want to steal the treasures of the garden. They want to steal the treasures of your heart. So we have to always be on guard for, Haribo, thank you for coming. Yeah. So, watering the thirsty heart with Krishna's holy name, allowing the Krishna sun to shine, to dispel the darkness of Maya. Prabhupada put this on the masthead of his Back to Godhead magazine, right? Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakar. Wherever the sun of Krishna is shining, the darkness of Maya can't enter. But again, he's not a pushy kind of manipulative lover. He's just waiting to see, what do you want, you know? Do you actually want that Maya? Do you want to be a robot, a zombie, walking through your life? Not being conscious of those predators who are coming in to steal the treasures of your heart? Thank you very much. Or what do you want, you know? That's why I love that little story of Prabhupada and Satsrupa. If you love me, I'll love you. But if you don't want to love me, that's okay too. I'll still be here. But, you know, it's, you know, think about it. Like, think of how many eons of time we've been traveling in this material world through so many bodies, like 8,400,000 species of life. And each one of us have been up, down, and around so many times, you know, not turning to Krishna, but still he's always there, always traveling. What kind of a lover is that, you know? Usually people give people a few chances and then afterwards, I'm out of here, right? But Krishna's not that kind of a lover. But still he waits for us to turn to him. So yeah, pulling up the weeds we've been warned about, giving up toxic pride, sense of entitlement. Sometimes you hear older devotees who've been around a long time say something like this: I've collected so many millions of dollars for this movement, so now ISKCON owes me. You know? That sense of entitlement. So just contrast that kind of consciousness to the awakened consciousness of humility that we see in Srila Prabhupada, or we were talking about Vrindavan Das Thakur. There's a beautiful story of Srila Prabhupada at one of his Vyasa Puja ceremonies. And he was sitting on the Vyasa-san, and devotees were coming up saying so many beautiful words to him, or maybe bombastic, whatever, oh, you're the Jagat Guru, you know, I'm the most fallen, all of this kind of thing. And one after another, after another, after another, you know. And someone who was sitting like right at the base of Prabhupada's Vyasa-san heard Prabhupada saying under his breath, after each one would come up and say something like that to him, Prabhupada was saying, you become, now you become. So whatever you're saying to me, I turn it back to you. You saying I'm the Jagat Guru, you become a Jagat Guru. You know, it's like so beautiful, so humble, so reciprocal, right? We used that word before, reciprocal. Yeah, so I think Srila Prabhupada expected this of us, to wake up to the living holy name, calling out to Krishna in all humility, to realize that the deity is Krishna himself, to realize that Srimad Bhagavatam is the fully ripened fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literature, and to become, you know, the word rasika, to become a rasika, to become someone who's actually a liberated soul, who's tasting this stuff, who's tasting the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now this verse is, third verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Nigama kalpataror, this is beautiful poetry. Nigama kalpataror galitam palam, sukhamukad amrita dravasamritam, pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam, muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. Yeah, become a rasika, become someone, a liberated person who's tasting this stuff. So we're not meant to be submissive is good, but we're not meant to be placidly hearing it. We're meant to actually begin to experience it. So hearing is the beginning, but then to begin experiencing it. And maybe we all know the song where Lord Chaitanya is calling, wake up sleeping souls, how long are you going to go on sleeping on the lap of the witch of illusion? So, if we see that we're walking through our lives like zombies or robots, everyone's talking about artificial intelligence. So this is another type of artificial intelligence, right? When my intelligence is artificial and is not being applied in an awakened way. But we have to express that to Krishna, to Srila Prabhupada, to whoever our mentors are, that I want to wake up. There's one instruction by Bhaktivinoda Thakur where he said, he's talking about a devotee. He says a devotee should always be praying to Krishna, to chant clear. This is like, sometimes we're like overshooting the goal, like, I want Krishna to pray now, But like he's saying, a devotee should always be praying to Krishna, to chant clear, attentive rounds. So like begin at the beginning, Pray to Krishna. If you want it, ask him. He's just waiting to hear. I like to say Krishna's sort of unemployed. If he's sitting in our hearts and we're not calling out to him, he's just waiting for us to call out to him. So in a sense, he's kind of unemployed, So he says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, he will always be praying to Krishna for the ability to chant clear, attentive rounds with his mind fixed on Krishna. And then he says something so beautiful, which is to me very rasika actually. He says, and one who does not take that opportunity is very unfortunate. So that's me so much of the time. Maybe that's us so much of the time. We just sort of go through the motions. We like little robots, like little wind-up toy soldiers or artificial intelligence, zombies. We just go through our day, but we don't take the opportunity to actually beg Krishna like an awakened person would do, like a longing person. This word lalyam, longing. There's a beautiful story of Vishnu Jan Swami that we don't use the word perfect so much anymore, but in older days people use the word perfect more. I mean, certainly there in Bhagavad Gita, but Vishnu Jan Swami asked Prabhupada, you can hear the recording, he said, Prabhupada, how can we render perfect service to Krishna? Because he was a very intentional person, very ecstatic person. He was really a true rasika. He said, how can we render perfect service to Krishna? And Prabhupada just shot back, he said, by your anxiety. In other words, like, the yogis are looking for shanti, peace, but that in bhakti it's like way beyond, on the other side of the spectrum, like, look at the anxiety of the gopis, look at the anxiety of Mother Yasoda, or even someone who's longing for this stuff, by your anxiety. Krishna, please, I want this. Don't ever show me the way. I'm so blind. I'm going through my life blind. Show me the way. So, yeah. So our moments in the human form of life are limited, fleeting. If we don't take it seriously and wake up now, what will be our next destination? No one knows. Do you know where you're going? Don't know. And we have a capable boat, right? This rare human form. We have most expert captains, Srila Prabhupada and our whole disciplic succession. We have favorable winds, so many beautiful bhakti literatures. And now we have this rare opportunity to cross this difficult ocean of Kali Yuga, treacherous ocean of birth and death, if we want to. So why not take it seriously? Yeah, so thank you all so much. What do you think? What is a reflection for you, or what was a takeaway for you? What was important for you here? What are you going to remember later? Or maybe there's some questions. some discussion.
I have a question. Okay, reflection and question. I think I resonate a lot with what you say. For me, Bhakti has been a journey coming from be very materialistic before my life in Krishna consciousness, then like trying, as you say, jump to the higher state of I want prem, I want like just to be the perfect devotee, and of course burning out in the process. And then now here I am trying to figure it out how is that organic process, like how to do this process being myself. Recently I read a book by Brené Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection.
Great book.
I love it. And I at some point it clicks a lot, like for me struck me hard because it was kind of like listening Krishna saying to me, hey, like I love you. You don't have to look for the way to be worthy of my love. Like you are worthy, period. I just want you to be close to me. Of course, this was kind of in my mind because Brené Brown doesn't say that, but basically Brené Brown say, just be yourself, be authentic. That's the whole thing. Like it's not about try to fit in, try to be something else, to fit in any society, including our society. So for me, the message was clear: like be yourself, try your best, connect with me, but be yourself. I just want you. But then, yeah, I hear a lot this question, and still I'm trying to figure out myself, like, how to combine that. Kind of like, here I am in this material world, I have a job, or maybe I'm a study, or something like that, and I want to have more presence of Krishna in my life, but how to get that, and then again, in organic way, when I don't feel that I'm just trying to be, or like pretending to be someone, but like being my real self and giving myself in the process. Kind of like instead of doing this for, what people will think about me, or what people will say about this that I'm doing, instead of that, it's like, is this helping me to get closer to Krishna or not? I think that's kind of like the switch of this question, or at least that's what was my conclusion after reading this book. But yeah, maybe my question in concrete is like, maybe what can you say about this process of putting Krishna in the center, even when our jobs or studies or things like that looks like are not so related?
Yeah, that's the walk, right? Because right here we're all thinking of Krishna, and we walk out on the street and then we get bombarded by this, that, and the other thing. But isn't it such a beautiful thing that Krishna loves each of us as a unique individual? I mean, it's the supreme personalism that he's already got so many beautiful gopis and cowherd boys and mothers, elderly gopis and cowherd men and everybody up there, millions of cows and beautiful flowers and so many birds, parrots talking. Still, he's kind of missing you. He's kind of missing, whatever that one little thing is that you're going to bring to this play. It's so mystical, that, and then, just like in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when Gopakumar comes back and Krishna's just hugging him like, I was missing you, I was waiting for you. It's like, well, you've got so many thousands and millions, but no, I was waiting for you. There's something in the prayers of Lord Brahma where he says that each one of the infinite qualities of Krishna is meant for attracting the heart of each one of the innumerable living entities. So it's a beautiful mystery, and that's our walk, that's our challenge, But I think we pray for it, Krishna, please help me when I walk out of here tonight. Help me, show me the way to remember. And when I walk into that office, when I walk into that university, when I'm dealing with that difficult person who's also just as dear to you as I am, show me the way. Sometimes Bhakti Tirtha Swami used to say something really beautiful, that every human exchange is either a gift of love or a cry for help. You know, so in your life, you know, you got some people who are really difficult, and maybe that's a cry for help. Maybe that's a moment when, you know, if you recognize it, if you can say, what's on your heart? Anything I can do? Because a lot of times people just feel so unheard. People feel unseen and unheard. And sometimes it's just a matter of a word or a smile or I was listening to this talk by Keshav Maharaj. He was saying he was out distributing books, and he said like 3 people, I don't know if it was all in one day, but he said like 3 people were telling him that they were planning to take their own lives. 3 different people. And he said one guy even showed him that he had the rope ready to take his own life. And so, you know, there's always that opportunity to help in some way, to help change the trajectory of someone. Maybe the most difficult person that you have in your life, the person who's giving you the most grief in your office or in your, you know, maybe in your family, maybe in your university, whatever, you know, whatever you're doing in your life. But sometimes those are the people who are the most ripe to actually, you know. Sometimes you can have a jar of cookies on your desk, you know, I mean, this is the greatness of Haryashva Das, you know, he's been distributing prasadam down here forever. You know, like how many hearts have been changed, how many hearts have been melted by the prasadam distribution. But if you have an office or, you know, a desk in a study group or whatever they do these days, you can just have a jar of, I mean, Prabhupada used to have gulab jamans, they're kind of messy, people maybe can't relate, you know, but just have cookies, and everyone in the office knows that they can just, you know, if they're having a rough day, they can come and grab a cookie from your desk. It's world changing. Prasadam is Prabhupada's secret weapon. Also, Prabhupada said that the Vaishnavis, that his women disciples, were Lord Chaitanya's secret weapon. Did you ever hear that before? He said, Prabhupada said that his women disciples were Lord Chaitanya's secret weapon.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I knew prasadam was our secret weapon.
Prasadam. What to speak of when you have a Vaishnavi, a lady, distributing prasadam. Then it's like double whammy. Prabhupada told a funny story that in Calcutta there was some company that was selling Brahmi oil, and he said no one had ever proven that Brahmi oil was effective in any way, but they were selling this stuff, and he said the company hired like very respectable young ladies, nicely dressed, and they would go door to door. They would go door to door knocking on people's doors. And he said, Prabhupada was saying, in the Kali Yuga, people are a little scared when a man comes to their door. But when a respectable lady comes and knocks on their door, they open their door and they listen. So he was saying that this product became so successful just because of their marketing, these respectable ladies. No proof that it had any efficacy at all. But so he was telling the story to Mula Prakriti, who was one of the biggest book distributors. You know, so he was saying these Vaishnavis are Lord Chaitanya's secret weapon. And in another place, actually, I don't know if any of you have read the sort of final book by Tamal Krishna Goswami called the editing was completed by Garuda Prabhu. It's called A Living Theology of Krishna Bhakti. And there he quotes Prabhupada Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who was one of the most staunch sannyasis, like during his staunch days. But then he went to the university and he kind of mellowed out a bit. But anyway, in there he quotes Prabhupada as saying that the women in the ISKCON society were always the inspiration for the men, and if without their presence, most of the men would have left. Prabhupada said. Getting off the track here, but we're talking about awakening the heart. So whether you're a man or a woman or a child or whatever, you know. What else? Any feedback? What was important for you here? What was a reflection or a takeaway or a question or anything you're gonna take home with you tonight?
I think what you were saying about kind of going through the motions with kind of our rituals and, you know, kind of typical chanting and everything, kind of being an automaton, not really engaging and really being present wholly. I think that definitely struck a chord. I mean, that's something that it's hard to do. I think, you know, and I guess I think if I try to chant or something like that, it feels very mechanical for me. Some moments maybe I can like keep my attention on it and be present, and then it's there for a moment and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And so I hope, I don't know, anyway, it's something that I endeavor to do, and maybe the question that's related to it is it the case that you just keep on going and slowly over time you can, you know, be more present? It's just through practice itself.
Thank you for the very sincere question. You know, I think that what we're trying to do here is actually impossible. I mean, we're just, you know, kind of fallen people. Our backgrounds are pretty mixed and whatever, but we have to cry to Krishna to help us. You know, so when you notice that I'm zoning out here, I chanted maybe one mantra and maybe my mind stayed there, but then my mind flew off. So I have to beg Krishna to help me. Please help me. Like Bhaktivinoda said, if we don't do that, we're very unfortunate. So the fact is, it's impossible without Krishna's help. So we have to let Krishna know that we want it and beg him for it and beg him again. And every time our mind wanders off, you know, it's not like kids, you know, you have a 2-year-old, you can't say, okay, I told you once, I told you twice. No, I give you $50 and put you out on the street of Philadelphia. Good luck. No. Right? Did you say that to your son?
No.
No. It's like, you just have to keep showing up. And I'm showing up from my little infinitesimal place. So I beg Krishna to partner with me, because on my own I can't do that. These are the beautiful songs of the Acharyas, or O He Vaishnava Thakur. Without you, I do not find the strength to, you know, to show up for the chanting of the holy names. So please help me. This is the example we have. Not a smug, self-complacent, entitled attitude. I already did so much for this movement. Now where's my payback? That's the opposite, isn't it? That's the opposite. I'm going to go on social media, criticize everybody who doesn't agree with me. It's the opposite. What else? Yes.
I relate really well to what Kunal Prabhu was saying as well, as far as, you know, feeling a bit autonomous, and in relationship to like with gardening, you know, I can put in so much time into gardening and think that I set up everything right, and then I come back and everything's dead, and I'm like, but I did everything right, but I didn't. You know, sometimes it's really, really challenging. You know, I could put so much time and effort into something and still fall short, and attempt to be humble to the situation. It's painful.
Yeah. That's why farmers are pretty much believers in God, they're theistic people.
Yeah.
Or during World War I, they had that saying, there are no atheists in the foxholes, right? Like, you're about to die, you better pray, you know, brother, you better pray. But farmers are pretty much theistic people, because they know my life is dependent on the rain, you know? The sun doesn't come out for 3 months, I have no harvest. So they pray. So we have to pray. We're as Voltaire said, I quoted Voltaire, right? Life, I love this quote. Were you here? Did you walk in and hear that? He said, life is bristling with thorns. You know, you work for the city of Philadelphia, right? You do, or you're managing the temple. Thorns, man. Every day. Jonah, why did you do this way? Why didn't you do it my way? Every day there's thorns. So he says, I see no other solution than to cultivate one's garden. And he's talking about the inner garden. So, you know, the whole Krishna consciousness movement is about giving, sharing, going out, distributing prasadam and books and everything. And all of that is like breathing out, right? Giving. But if we don't breathe in, the whole process of living, right? we breathe out, we breathe in, we breathe out, we breathe in. And so the breathing in process is when we nurture ourselves. And there's a lot of burnout, right? Like you're a healthcare person, right? There's so much burnout when people are nurses or helping professionals, because people need to be breathing in addition to all the giving. Because if you just giving and not breathing in, then you're going to burn out. Because we're so small and tiny, from our imperfect place. We need help. We need to be connecting with Krishna in that relationship before we go out to share. Otherwise, it's so impossible. What else? Anybody else? Reflections or questions or takeaways? Smile. You have something?
Sort of. I need help giving advice to anyone has this resistance to just surrender to whatever it is that they're going through, let alone meditate. I lead meditations every week, and there's one person who's just struggling to just be with themselves. And I don't know what to say besides everything I've said already for this person to just, but they show up, which is great. But there's still this resistance to let go.
People have their own choice and their own mind and their own desires, so pray for them to get the seed of bhakti, and pray for the intelligence how to couch it, how to phrase it in a way that they can hear. Distribute prasadam, which is the agyata sukriti. It's unknown. Those barriers are breaking down just by taking mahaprasadam, and pray to Krishna for the way. But sometimes I think this about my son Gauravan. Well, how am I going to get him too? And you can't get him. You're going to be the last person who's ever going to get him to do anything. He has to want it, and it's between him and Krishna. Sometimes when you're in a relationship, you come to a class and you think, oh, if only he had heard this or she had heard this. But the people who show up are the people who are meant to hear it. And sometimes we show up on different levels. Sometimes our body's there, but our heart is not there. And all you can do is offer it to the best of your ability and pray to Krishna to break down those barriers and use you as an instrument, he's the transcendental Cupid. He's got his arrow. I have this picture at home that's so beautiful. It's a sculpture by Bernini, this Italian beautiful marble sculptor, and he made this sculpture of Saint Teresa. So she's like passing out. She's in white marble, and then the transcendental Cupid is just also in white marble, just like shooting her with his arrow of divine love. So that's what we want, But we can also beg Krishna to be that instrument of, that transcendental Cupid. Use me as your arrow and help shoot. Yes.
I was just saying that what stuck with me is, the story that you said, where Prabhupada said, if you love me.
Oh yeah. That story from Satsvarup Maharaj, who was bringing his typing work. I don't know if you heard that. But
That was the first thing I heard.
Oh yeah. If you love me, I'll love you. So just imagine little Krishna, little Gopal. One of my friends gave me this nice picture of Krishna. So it's a picture of the blind sadhu Vilva Mangala Thakur. He's blind and he's playing his ektar and he's chanting, doing his bhajan, and he's blind and he doesn't see that there's this little Krishna there right in front of him. Like that, So I have that right by where I chant, but that's like Krishna. If you love me, I'll love you. But it's all right. I got it together. Like Draupadi. I can take care of myself. You ever hear the joke about the guy who's looking for a parking space, and he's got an appointment with the government downtown. He's got to get to the appointment. He can't find a parking place, and he's looking. Finally, he starts praying. God, please give me a parking place. I got to get to this appointment. I can't find a parking place. I'm going to be late for this appointment. And then finally, this parking place shows up mystically, you know, and he goes, God, forget it. I got it. I got it. It's so much like us, you know. You ever feel like that guy? You know, so. Yes?
I have a comment. I am sorry that I'm up and down the stairs, and some of our people are at the temple and some of them at New Vrindavan, but you've always been such an inspiration to me.
Aww.
And the fact that you're in a woman's body, I really, really appreciate it. Because I've known since a young man that there's a special potency that women have. Everyone listens. Everyone listens to mom, you know. You listen to your big sister. And Prabhupada said, you know, these are transcendental women. So when I think that I've always been inspired that whenever you're telling Krishna consciousness, you can say it in such a sweet way. It's so palatable. And you know, I think that's a special gift.
Thank you.
But the other thing I wanted to say is that because we weren't able to receive you so nicely, that if you would come back, we would, you know, whatever time was available, we would really, really have a good time. I know I'm gonna watch the YouTube, but I just think it's very, very nice. If possible, we'll take good care of you if you could come back.
Thank you so much for the standing invitation. You always take good care of everyone. But I wanted to say, so you probably love your mom a lot. Is she still living?
My mom?
Yeah, you probably had a good.
My mother's been dead so long, but you know, for me, my mother's always ever fresh. You know, the instructions and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's the relationship.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of guys who had a loving relationship with their mom are able to hear from ladies, and some guys unfortunately didn't have such a good relationship with their mom. I mean, I'm just making a theory here, but you know, sometimes if you had, you know, if you were, you know, left on a doorstep somewhere, it's pretty hard to love sometimes. You know? I heard this story from, I was listening to this, he's a beautiful Catholic, his name is David Brooks, he writes for the New York Times, he's like the one lone conservative religious person at the New York Times. So he was telling this story about, I forget what the name of this group is, maybe they're called the Weavers, but they have a practice, so they bring, invite a mother with an infant baby to come into a classroom of 8th graders. And they just the mother just lets the baby crawl around, and it's to help these 8th graders learn empathy.
wow.
Yeah, so it's an amazing thing. And you know and the instruction to the kids is, what is that baby thinking, you know? Anyway, so the story goes that this one boy asked the mother if he could hold the baby. And he was bigger than all the other kids, and he was kind of scary looking because he had been held back a few times. He was in foster care. Mm-hmm. He was, I think his mother had been killed when he was a child or something. He was raised in foster care. And so he asked if he could hold the baby, and she was a little scared, you know. But she let him hold the baby, and he just so tenderly just held this baby. And, you know, he was really good with the baby. And then afterwards he was asking all these questions, and one of the questions he asked the mother was, do you think someone could be a good father if they were never loved?
Oh.
Wow. So, yeah, you know, this is the process of opening the heart, you know. So people carry a lot of trauma when people come into our temples, and even people who've been around a long time carry a lot of trauma. A lot of people who, you know, were just rejected as children, you know. My God, our dear God sister Shilavati, who just passed away, she was an unwanted child. But you know what? It made her go deeper. And that is not always the case, but a lot of times when people carry some kind of suffering, it creates like a thirst or longing, and they go deeper. That was the case with her. She was such a deep searcher for love and spiritual love, spiritual truth. So I think we have to recognize the thirst, you know, don't just stuff it down. If I'm feeling thirsty, Krishna, where are you, where are you, where are you? You know, recognize it, cry it. You know, what did Jataka Maharaj say? You should be crying for Krishna. If you're not crying for Krishna, you should be crying that you're not crying for Krishna. If you're not crying that you're not crying for Krishna, you should cry that you're not crying for Krishna. And then he starts screaming. In other words, we should cry for Krishna. So the whole point of this class is that we need to wake up. We can't just sleep off because our, you know, so many people are passing away, right? So many of our God siblings, like Burjan Prabhu called this the decade of tears, I think he called it, yeah. So our time here is very finite, and if we don't wake up and try for it, even in, like you're mentioning this beautiful book by Brene Brown, you know, so from our own imperfect place, because that's the Vrindavan mood. It's the imperfect place. It's the place of the heart. Like in Vaikuntha, everything works, everything's perfect, everything is untold, you know. In Vrindavan, it's, you know, it's an imperfect little village. Everything maybe is a little crooked, and Krishna's just breaking all the butter pots, causing a ruckus. And, you know, he's the illicit lover. He breaks all the boundaries. He lies, he steals, he cheats. So from that imperfect place, we have to cry out. Anything else before we? Yes. Sorry.
It said that loving Krishna means you don't ask Krishna for anything.
Who said that?
I know, Anya Vilasa Sunya, you know.
Yeah, so
You
that
ask for bhakti, but you don't ask anything
so
that you.
overshoot so
I know.
high.
I'm just thinking for us, you know, like for me, we're not just scared.
So that's why we think.
For everything we have to ask Krishna for help. That when you don't ask Krishna for nothing, you just love Krishna. How does this happen?
So, you know, we think Anya Vilasita Sunyam. Bhakti is, you know, is pure. I'm not going to ask it for anything. No jnana, no karma, no asking, no nothing. But I'll just figure it out myself. I'll just I'll work it out myself. I'll stress out about it myself. But Krishna is waiting for us to turn to him. So maybe, you know, there's another verse, I'll tell you. What is it? Whether you, I'm trying to remember the Bengali or Sanskrit.
Kama Sarvakama?
Yeah, you got it. So akama, sarvakama, moksha karma vidarati. So whether you have no desires, whether you have all desires, whether you have a desire for liberation, you know the verse better than me. So go to Krishna. So it's not that, you know, we try to figure it out ourselves and then, oh, Krishna, anyavilasita sunyam. You know, how about crying to Krishna when I'm trying to figure out how to get through my day? You know, how to go through these difficult moments, these thorns. Everybody's got thorns. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small, but everybody's got thorns each day. So what about crying to Krishna from akama, sarvakama, mokshakama, whatever it is? Go to Krishna, not just stuff it down. I think a big problem in our culture is that we stuff it down. We think it's not all right to express it, but that doesn't really work. We've stuffed down our grief, we've stuffed down our issues, but we have to express it to Krishna. Or some trusted mentor. You know, it's not everybody, it's not every single devotee you're going to be able to have that kind of intimate friendship with, but there might be one or two. Or Krishna, if there's nobody. But it's nice to have one or two people that you can talk to honestly. Yeah.
Right now I'm doing a training with Karuna Care. I don't know if you heard here about them.
Yeah.
And
Rambarus are very different.
yeah, and I think that I really I'm so in depth with them, like with Ramburu Mataji, because that was the first space where I felt safe to be myself.
Wonderful.
Like as a human, as a devotee, to be able to open my heart and be a devotee, but not from this platform of like, oh, I have to be perfect, or a parent to be a perfect devotee. No, like a platform of like, here I am with my weaknesses, some strengths, but a lot of struggles, and that has been a huge blessing. And I highly recommend, if anybody needs that,
Yeah.
please go with Karuna Care. Like they have the support circles. You can have one-on-one supports. They have these short trainings, 5 weeks trainings, and has been an amazing
I think it's the
experience.
most culture changing program that we have
Yes.
in our society.
It's,
You're doing the trauma training, the
I
addiction
am doing now the chaplaincy training.
chaplaincy.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
a wonderful service for devotees.
Yeah.
You know, to be a chaplain.
Yeah.
You know, in a hospice with dying people, or in a university, or in the military. It's a really sacred service, because it's kind of like getting a salary to do all the things that devotees want
Yeah.
to do. You know,
Yes.
preach, distribute books.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's very, very culture changing. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful program. Yeah. To become trained, you know, because I think a lot of times devotees think they know everything.
Yeah.
You know, I did the grief support, and I led a couple of grief support groups, 12-week sessions, and it's amazing
Yeah.
how witnessing people coming up with their own answers, not being told you should, or, you know, it's very, very powerful. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's because I think there's a big kind of a buzz in the ISKCON movement right now for devotee care, but a lot of times people don't know what that means. It's like they don't really know what it means.
Yeah.
So with the training for Ramburu, you can really find out what it means, how to really be there to help in ways that are really, really heart-changing. Thank you for mentioning that. Well, thank you all so much. Oh, yes.
We had devotee care here also. Sita is managing it with the help of Mother Sangeeta.
Wonderful. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Sangeeta. Yeah.
Our reluctancy to call out to Krishna for help, and as you said, but I'll try to fix it myself, I'll try to figure it out myself. Does that come from an underlying lack of belief that Krishna is really there?
Very introspective thought. I think so. It comes from our separatist mentality, right? That's why we come to this world, icha dvesha samutena, you know, by desire and hate. You know, I can figure it out. I don't really need you to be the center of my life. I can be the center of my own world. So yeah, I think you probably hit it on the head. You know, we have a separatist mentality. So, you know, we want to have that oneness in love. It's not a Mayavadi kind of a oneness, but it's a oneness in love. And give up our separatist mentality. That, you know, I want your dictation. I want to hear you. Please let me hear you. You know better than me. I love the prayer by Maharaj Prithu in the Srimad Bhagavatam where he says, it's really nice the way he puts it. He goes, this is a nice one for us too. And he says, you know, we're the kids. We don't know what's good for us. You're the dad. You know, you show me what's good for me. Or like in our business, we had a business in Washington metropolitan area. We had 3 stores for 25 years. And we always had this one prayer, let the right doors open and the wrong doors close. You know, because then if a door slams in your face, you just have a little faith that, wow, maybe I wasn't supposed to get on that plane. Maybe I wasn't supposed to go. And you feel like a rat in a maze. And Krishna's just opening doors that you just never even imagined. So yeah, you're the dad, we're the kids. You know, you show what's right for me. You know, because I don't know, really, I don't know what to pray for, but I know I need your help. You know, that's nice. I think it's our big fat ego. You know, separatist ego. I can handle it. I really do. So, thank you. realization. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. This has been a very sacred time.
Thank you. Krishna.
Let's pull out those secret weapons, the Vaishnavis.